Hey, so when C.S. Lewis converted from atheism to Christianity, he said he would engage with his atheist friends at the university, and some of their questions were frankly so dumb that it was like being asked, what does the color yellow smell like? Today, in 2022, with all the science that we have, it amazes me some of the dumbest things pro-abortion people say. And I know you get these questions too, and it's almost like you're being asked what the color yellow smells like. However, we must engage them and we must give them an answer. So I'm going to give you the dumbest of pro-abortion arguments I've heard and how I respond. But first, I want to say praise the Lord. You know, we did it. You know, our Catholic brothers and sisters, I thank you. You guys led the fight. Our Protestant brothers and sisters, you were there alongside of us fighting to save the unborn children. You know, like Pope Francis said years ago when speaking in the Middle East, he said, you know, us Christians, Protestants, and Catholics, we're in an ecumenism of blood. And what he meant by that was, he said this, he followed it up by saying this: when ISIS kills a Christian in the Middle East, they don't ask him, are you a Protestant Christian or are you a Catholic Christian? No, they ask him, are you a Christian? And if they will not deny Christ, they behead them. And we've had an ecumenism, a fellowship of blood, unfortunately, of the martyrs. In the same way in America, there's been an ecumenism of blood. But the blood is not grown-up martyrs. The blood is unborn children that this country has sacrificed for the God of convenience and the God of money and the God of selfishness. So I just want to encourage you guys. We're winning the fight. The tide is turning, but it's not over. Now the fight goes back to the states, and we got to engage. I'm going to give you some of my best arguments. Use them if you think they make sense. But we got to vote pro-life. You know, we got to vote the pro-death party, the cultural death party. The Democrats completely out. We got to just really vote them out. Like, we got to win huge to make a statement. And I think we will. And we got to spend our money wisely. You know, there's a lot of pro-abortion companies that are paying for their people to go have an abortion. Of course, these companies, they want to sound woke, but, you know, hey, the less insurance they got to pay. If we kill all their babies and we just got to insure this woman, you know, so I'm sure that's their ulterior motive. But we got to stop giving money to those kinds of companies and give money to pro-life companies. I know when I say this, I sound like a commercial, but I don't know any other way of saying this. If you're buying or selling real estate, please go to realestateforlife.org and support a pro-life company. If you have any real estate needs, go to realestateforlife.org. And if you tell them Blue Collar Catholic sent you, they'll help support my ministry as well. Now, some of the dumb arguments I'm hearing is, oh, men want to control women's bodies. Even Bill Maher had to concede this is a stupid argument on his show a few weeks ago when he found out that most pro-lifers are women. So that's just like such a ridiculous argument. But the stupidest argument, the dumbest argument they keep saying is, my body, my choice. Which I reply, okay, what part of your body is it? Is it an organ? Is it a gland? Is it bone? Is it skin? What part of the body? Show me in biology. This is 2022. We have the science. Show me what part of your body. Let's take an ultrasound and tell me, is this an organ? No. We knew as early as 1958. One of the best scientists in the world. Any list of like the top 5 scientists always has this leading geneticist, Dr. Jerome Lejeune. In 1958, Dr. Lejeune discovered the genetic cause of Down syndrome. In 1958, because he was worried that they knew the cause of Down syndrome, that people would kill these babies, he told the scientific community that based on science alone, life begins at conception. But he didn't stop there. He showed them scientifically. He proved in 1958 that life begins at conception. If you're familiar with Ben Carson, who ran for president, before he ran for president, He was known as one of the most brilliant neurosurgeons. He was a pediatric neurosurgeon. He made history by separating two babies born in the skull, twins, they were born together. He separated them. He actually made a movie about them. Cuban Gooding Jr. played him, I believe. And everybody knew this is probably one of the most brilliant men of our time until he ran for president, and he was a pro-life Republican. Then the Democrat strategists who played a part of mainstream media journalists like Chuck Todd, who was a Democrat speechwriter for many years before he tried to play this journalist, and George Stephanopoulos, who was Bill Clinton's campaign manager and I think chief of staff for a short time before he plays the part of a journalist on ABC. The mainstream media is loaded with this. I can go down the list. They just take Democrat strategists and make them act like journalists. So these guys were afraid of Ben Carson because they knew how brilliant he was. So, I mean, these guys are smart. They're good, strategists, when it comes to politics. But they're really not what anybody would call a brain surgeon. Ben Carson is a brain surgeon. And these guys try to make Ben Carson look stupid. If you follow politics, you see how they just tried to make him look dumb. It was kind of rich. But Ben Carson said at 12 weeks in the womb, so if you're pregnant with your baby and you're only 12 weeks pregnant, when they can do successful surgeries on these babies, but they have to give them anesthesia because they know these babies feel pain. This is not your body. This is a separate body that feels pain that you can't feel. So when you kill that body, it feels pain. You're murdering a baby. You're not eliminating a clump of cells like people living in the dark ages maybe have thought, but I don't even think they were that dumb. I mean, Joe Biden said we're bringing the laws back to the 1950s. Joe Biden's science is the 1950s if he thinks this is a woman's body. So that's argument number 2. My body, my choice. I mean, just look at 3D ultrasound, 4D ultrasound. It is a human body. There's so many scientific metrics to prove its life, that it's not a clump of cell, and that it's not a woman's body, my choice. Nobody's trying to control the woman's body. We're trying to protect the baby's body. And if you don't want the baby, give it up for adoption. There's actually a waiting list for newborn babies. That's a fact. Then what they're arguing this week, guns have more rights than women. No, guns do not have any rights. They're guns. And they're referring to the Supreme Court protecting our Second Amendment. And what the Supreme Court protected was actually in the Constitution that says that we have a right to bear arms. The people have a right to bear arms, and the government cannot infringe on that right. So they're actually protecting our right to own a gun. The gun doesn't have a right. Unlike abortion, which is not in the Constitution. There's no right to abortion in the Constitution. There is a right to bear arms. You can read it. Read the whole Constitution. You'll find no right to abortion. Even the left's favorite liberal, the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg, said as much. Yeah, there's no right to an abortion in the Constitution. And in fact, I'll admit, she said, it's bad law. It's bad law. But it's good policy, and I support it. And I would never vote to overturn Roe v. Wade because I think women should have the right to an abortion. And that's the difference. See, Democrats appoint liberal judges that will rule based on what they want the laws to be. Republicans appoint conservatives that look at the Constitution, look at the laws passed, and see, is this constitutional? Does this infringe on any of the rights that our founders gave us? So, abortion infringes on the right to life. You're taking a life from an innocent human being that did nothing wrong. So that's a stupid argument. Guns have more rights than people. Then they'll argue, well, you don't care about poor minorities. They're going to be hurt the most. Minorities are going to be hurt the worst. Again, let's go back to the science that it is a baby. So now, if you see an infant, maybe 2 weeks old, in the crib, and the parents are poor, maybe on welfare, maybe on food stamps, maybe living in projects, oh, that baby's poor. should we then kill the baby? That's the logic you're giving me. They'll say, oh no, that's ridiculous. I'll say, okay, well, 2 weeks prior, they were in the womb. And they're like, well, abortion shouldn't be up to that amount. Well, that's what the Democrats just passed in the House. Thankfully, the Republican Senate didn't let it get through. But they passed a bill that would allow through the 9th month abortion. And in states like California, all those Democrat-run states, New York, New Jersey, California, they have laws now. You can have an abortion to the 9th month. Oh, well, that's too much. Well, then when would you end it? The 8th month? The 7th month? When does this magically turn into a baby? Are you that naive? Are you that scientifically ignorant to think that just one day it's a baby and one day it's not? No. It's a very illogical argument to allow abortions because their parents are poor. And in addition to that, the reason these pro-abortion politicians and the pro-abortion industry is so powerful is not because they love the poor minorities. In fact, the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, whom Hillary Clinton said she admired greatly, proudly admits, and you can Google this, she was on 60 Minutes, black and white, and back in the day, we're talking to Mike Wallace, bragging that she's given several speeches to the KKK because they have the same vision as her. You see, she agreed with them. Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, said, the Negro race are like weeds, we need to exterminate them. I admire the eugenics program the Nazis are using to exterminate the Jews, and we should do the same thing over here. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to put sterilization, abortion clinics in black neighborhoods. And we're going to pay out a few black sellouts. She called them Negroes. We'll sell them out, we'll pay them off, and we'll get them to convince their people that killing their babies is actually loving their babies. And when you see the black sellouts, in California, David Dalton proved that not only Planned Parenthood was butchering these babies, but they were selling the body parts. We've seen it on video. He had like 7 videos released, and Kamala Harris stopped the videos from being released, and an arrest was made, and you would think it would be against these barbaric butchers at Planned Parenthood. No, she arrested David Dalton because she said that was illegal for him to film this, because he had films of little hands, beating hearts. This is the kind of gruesome stuff Planned Parenthood was involved in. Not only are they making millions from killing the babies, but they're profiting off the bodies of these babies, which is illegal. And he proved that. But Kamala Harris, a sellout to her community, arrested him and not them. So Planned Parenthood's plan put these sterilization abortion clinics in Negro neighborhoods. Today, 90% of Planned Parenthood clinics are in black neighborhoods. And is she working? Well, at one point, America had 20% African American population. It's down to 14%. Yes, their genocidal program that the Democrats are pushing with the help of Planned Parenthood is working. The black community is the only minority group that's losing people. Their population is declining. The Asian race, the Hispanic race, every other race, minority race, they're gaining in population. There's a genocide. There's a black genocide going on right now. 7% of the women in America are black. 40% of the abortions are performed on black women. In New York City, every year, more black babies are aborted than born. Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood and the Democrat Party, the party that started the KKK, the party that fought against slavery, the party that fought against civil rights, they're the same party that are supporting abortion, and they're pushing it on the African American community. So they don't care. They don't care. They want to butcher your baby. So, and a lot of African Americans are seeing it. Usually Democrat presidents get about 90% approval ratings from African Americans. Joe Biden is down to 56%. So they're starting to wake up. A lot of blacks are waking up. And, there's so much information available. They're seeing the truth. And then another argument. Well, what if a woman is raped? You're not going to allow her to have to carry that baby to term. Well, this actually happened to a woman I spoke about. Kathy Barnett's mother was raped at age 11, gave birth to Kathy Barnett at age 12, and Kathy Barnett just ran a pretty good campaign for the Senate of Pennsylvania. She didn't win, but she came pretty darn close in the primaries, and she's a very successful woman. Her name is Kathy Barnett, and she said when her mother was raped at 11, her mothers, Kathy's grandmothers, said, well, you know, it's not the baby's fault. We're not going to kill the baby because the evil of your rapist. We're Christians. We're going to love that baby, and we're going to raise it together. And that baby was Kathy Barnett. And Kathy Barnett is so glad her mother didn't kill her in the womb. Kathy Barnett's mother is so glad, and the grandmother is so glad. These are 3 strong Christian women who didn't have a lot of money. They were poor, living in the rural South, Alabama, because they knew it wasn't the baby's fault. Again, it's life. Go back to the first thing I said. Life begins at conception. It's a baby. So if you've seen a baby that was conceived by rape and it was like an infant, again, in a crib, would you say, oh, that baby was conceived by rape, we need to kill it? No, you would not. You would not. You know, adding more violence does not solve the evil of the first violence. And that's an evil act. Rape should have the most severe punishment. But you shouldn't punish the baby, you should punish the rapist. Because again, science, this is 2022. Bernard Nathanson, who performed like 30,000 abortions before he was convicted and the guilt just was weighing too much on him, said, if women's stomachs were transparent, abortion would end. You know, if they really knew, they knew the truth, what they were doing. But, you know, people want to hide. Oh, it's just a clump of cells. Oh, it's not developed. Oh, don't feel pain. All lies. Like I said, Ben Carson, top neurosurgeon, probably one of the greatest brain surgeons that ever lived, said, no, they feel pain at 12 weeks. We have to give them anesthesia for operating on them. And we can operate on them. I've seen pictures, these tiny little hands, getting the intravenous put in them for the anesthesia so they can operate. 12 weeks. Like I said, that's why most countries, believe it or not, most countries in Europe don't allow abortion past 12 weeks. And, you know, it's kind of ironic, these people fighting the abortion law in Mississippi got Roe v. Wade overturned, and they were just saying you can't have abortion after 15 weeks, 16 weeks, 4 months. Come on. And they fought it, and the Supreme Court looked at it and said, well, we can't even find abortion rights in the Constitution. So, but there's only 7 countries that allow abortion as late as we do in our liberal states. And 3 of those countries I know is China, Communist Vietnam, and Communist North Korea. I forget the other ones. Even the left-wing loon Macron from France said he condemns America for, you know, this abortion ruling. Even in his country, abortion is only allowed up to the 14th week. Like these people just speak and they don't even know what they're talking about. We're talking about California allowing abortion through the 9th month when the baby is about to give birth, about to go through the canal. If a doctor comes in and says, your husband was killed in a car wreck, do you still want the baby? You sure you'll be able to take care of the baby without his income? No, kill the baby. They have the right to kill the baby. That's legit. They could do that. I don't think it's ever happened, but they could technically do that. This is the extreme position the Democrat Party is holding today. So they think it's a winning issue, but they're so out of touch because most people, they just did a poll, AP did a poll, 72% of Americans don't think we should allow abortion past 12 weeks. So most Americans are not on board with this extreme culture of death the Democrats are pushing. But we need to get to the point where we eliminate all abortions. We need to work together, Protestants and Catholics. We need to work together to make this a culture of life, not a culture of death. You know, we wonder why kids walk in and kill their classmates. They have no respect for life because society has no respect for life. Something is inconvenient, you get rid of it, you kill it. Life is not sacred in America. But we need to keep the tide turning in the direction it is. It's coming back to the States. We need to convince and change hearts and minds that one day, and I believe this is going to happen, the science is just too real, the science is just too overwhelming. One day, Americans will look back at abortion the way we look back at slavery, and our grandchildren will say, just like we said when we look at slavery, how could people allow such evil to exist for so long? And our grandchildren are going to say, they had ultrasounds back then. They had 4D ultrasounds. They knew it was a baby. How did they allow the butchering of innocent life for so long? And it's going to be a sad chapter in our history, just like slavery was. But just like slavery was abolished because Christians rose up and realized it was a sin, the Christians in this country are raising up. And they're going to show people the sin and the ignorance of killing human life. So God bless and stay Catholic.